Are you on edge? We live in challenging, edgy times, so let's lean in. I'm Sandra Bargman, the host of the Edge of Everyday podcast, which drops bi-monthly on all your favorite podcast platforms. Tune in live with me and my friends and colleagues as we share stories and tough talk about pushing boundaries and exploring our rough edges. Real talk with real people that sparks provocative invitations to leap out of what's safe. Sandra Bargman, on the edge of every day. Thanks for listening. Hello, everyone. I'm Sandra Bargman, and welcome back to the Edge of Every Day, now streaming on all your favorite podcast platforms and at maximizeyou.life. Are you a change maker? Do you walk between worlds, between cultures, between systems? If you answered yes to any of these questions, the Edge of Every Day is the place for you. In a nutshell, this podcast is about pushing boundaries and exploring rough edges. Through conversations and shared stories with friends and colleagues, it's my hope that we can begin to understand our edges. And what I mean by edges is those places where we are fearful, those places where we are resistant to change, those places where paradox and contradicting identities live in our beliefs and in our understandings, both individually and collectively. We live in edgy, challenging times. We cannot keep looking away from the ugly, from the difficult, and silence is no longer an option. Life isn't black or white, it's both, and I want to talk about that. I want to face the tension of paradox, and I want to engage in the hard conversations. I want to explore the rough edges between our light-filled brilliance and our dark, shadowy corners. Because the more we recognize our own edges and get real about them, the more we can help others to do the same. And that, I fully believe, can help to change the world. So, thanks for tuning in. Today, we are live in the hive with transformational guide, medium, and author, Deborah Hanlon. In this episode, we will explore this question: what can our connections to death, loss, and grief teach us about living more fully? Deborah is committed in all of her work to the understanding that intuition is not a mystical gift reserved only for a few. It is our human birthright. And by learning to tap into it intentionally, it becomes an extremely helpful tool in addressing our current levels of societal and cultural polarization, as well as contributing to the expansion of our global consciousness. I'm so excited for this conversation, but before we dive in, let me share Deborah's bio. For over 2 decades, Deborah Hanlon has empowered people to harness the transformative power of grief, helping them to heal, grow, and step into their highest potential. With a unique blend of science, spirituality, and intuition, Deborah leads her clients on a journey of self-awareness, tapping into their inner strength to unlock the lives they're destined to live. Her teachings, grounded in both psychology and metaphysics, offer a refreshing realism that honors skepticism and celebrates the mystery of the human spirit. Author of the compelling book, In the Presence of Proof, Deborah masterfully weaves together personal experiences and scientific insights, proving that the afterlife and consciousness are far more interconnected than we realize. Her upcoming book, Reassembling Yourself, explores the alchemy of grief and Deb's belief that grief, when embraced, can be a profoundly transformative experience. Deborah holds a master's degree in psychology with an emphasis on positive and somatic psychology, as well as multiple mindfulness certifications, bringing both a scientific and compassionate lens to her workshops and retreats. Welcome, welcome, Deborah Hanlon.
Wow, that was quite a fun introduction for me to hear.
Isn't it fun? Everyone says the same thing as, oh, it's like, how was it to hear your CV read by someone else? It's always fun to see people's reaction.
It
Yeah,
really is quite feel remarkable.
yeah, feels really good and juicy. And from the way that I read it, I'm sure my listeners understand that I think the world of you and the work that you offer to the world.
And it's one of those things as I was kind of preparing for today, I'm thinking just of how we met and came together. It was just one of those like the universe got it right type
Oh,
of moments.
totally.
Yeah.
Well, that's generally the first thing I like to share with my listeners is how I know my guests. And so we have to shout out to Chris Marino, Q92 at iHeartRadio in Poughkeepsie. Yes, Deb is a Hudson Valley native. Actually, I shouldn't say native,
Mhm.
resident. Are you a native as well?
I
Yeah.
am a native.
All right. And it's on his Marino in the Morning show that you were a part of. And I had done a couple of guest spots about the Plum, my salon space. And just from him getting to know me, he said, I have someone, you have to meet her. You will love her. And lo and behold, here we are today.
And that's exactly what he said to me. He said, Deb, I'm telling you, you need to meet this woman.
Oh,
And he he was right. And having sharing time at your home, I mean, it was just really just
it's lovely.
welcoming and lovely. And you made an amazing salad that I still think about.
Yes. We fell in. The two of us just fell in. And so we're going to shout out to Chris Marino with a big fat dose of gratitude for that.
Big time.
Yeah. Well, the question that I like to start with all of my guests is this. So why don't we just dive in with it? What identity do you lead with?
Oof. Oof. Okay.
I know, just a little one.
Let's just jump
Just
right off the
say,
building and fly.
yes. It's so much
Um,
fun.
that
It's
is a
so
great
revelatory.
question. That's
And it can be
fantastic.
anything based on what day it is?
Well, that's kind of where my answer is going. I often talk about I love my work and I love what I do and I love what I built and I love who I am in it. It it is just unbelievable and it is never lost on me that I get the privilege to be Deborah and do Deborah. And yet, so I often say like, God, sometimes I need a Deborah. I need Deborah. Where's my Deborah? So I have like two personas. I always say there's Deborah, who is very anchored and grounded in myself and what I know and don't know, and super confident. And that's not to say cocky by any means. It's just
Mhm.
confident and residing in myself. And then there's Debbie, who, as we all do, has our idiosyncrasies, our fears, our worries, our concerns, our overthinking minds. And my work lately has been a lot about, of course, merging the two and really just being Deborah all the time. Merging the two and letting that Debbie self not lead. She can reside there and integrate, but I really love the identity of Deborah, which to me is just my truest, authentic self that I can remember my 3-year-old self
Yeah.
being this person.
Yeah. Really rest in that the complexity of all of those woven together and rest into it and own it. And I love that you said not that you're confident, not cocky. And I'm always, yeah, this sense of fake humbleness that people feel like they need to present is destructive, I believe, and particularly to women who don't want to I can't be too big or somehow I'm going to rock the boat. No, you're going to free yourself and you're going to free the people around you to also share their gifts and their light in the world that we all desperately need.
Exactly. And you're right. That complex humility. Oh, and we all do it. We all do it.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
maybe we need to kind of move that
rein
along.
that in.
Right.
Well, it's definitely on my list of things to do. I mean, I just came out with a chapter called Ferocious Compassion in a book called Love Notes, and it is that's part of it is the not shying, not twisting myself into something smaller to make people comfortable. And there's many, many ways in which we do that, and that's only one of them.
Right.
Yeah,
That's a big
lovely.
message. I can feel like people listening to this already taking that away. Like that to your listeners is the reminder of like, yeah, I need to shine. I need
Mm,
to, whatever that means.
yeah,
I need to play bigger. I need to kind of crack out of the smaller version of ourselves. That's
yeah,
that's resonating and reverberating already.
yeah. Amen. Mm, 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 mm. All right. So here we're going to just jump again. This question came to me as I was waking up this morning, getting excited to have our conversation. What have dead people taught you about living?
That one's an easy one for me.
I'm sure. I'm sure, but I laugh so hard when dead people teach. Yes, of course.
Yeah.
What?
So kind of a little back step to that is that I would be a very big skeptic
Mm,
if I didn't do this myself. I have a very scientific-ish mind, and I really
yeah.
validate or prefer validation and proof and evidence of everything.
Mm,
So when we say dead people, um, collectively, a smaller understanding of dead people means people that are no longer physically living.
yeah.
That's the common understanding of what that means. But I'd like to raise our consciousness a bit around that to to start reaching us up a little bit of like what dead people really means.
Means good.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
What it really means is when we leave our bodies, we are no longer assigned to and attached to the limited human version of ourselves.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean we leave that person behind. In fact, quite the opposite. We come to this awareness of this great validity and divinity that we had in our human body, divinity in a holistic sense, not a
Yes.
religious sense.
Hmm.
And so when we die, we join the collective. We're one as we hear. And so what I've learned from a higher consciousness that we call dead is that we've been one all along. We've been powerful all along. We've been whole all along. And when we decide to come into a life, if we can take the mindset that we chose that life, which is very dicey for a lot of people, for a lot of very clear understanding of what do you mean nobody would choose to
A
be the
life
brunt
of, right.
of a life of horror. And I would agree as a human. But if we can just kind of like kind of move beyond that for a moment and realize that if I chose that lifetime, how courageous, how brave, how what a journey that we're living in life. And it makes daily life less intense and more intense at the same time. Like it's kind of
Yeah,
like don't sweat the small stuff because none of this really matters. And since it doesn't matter, then I get to make whatever I want in it to matter.
right. I get to focus on, again, being larger, like we just said.
Exactly.
Yeah, not
Life
being
is this,
small.
yeah, we're constantly battling. And in my book, in The Presence of Proof, my first book, I write about like we're constantly battling between our higher selves and our human selves,
Yeah.
which is the Deborah versus
The
Debbie.
Debbie, yeah.
Yes,
The
the
inter
small self, the large self. And if we can understand that, and I talk about this 24/7. I eat it, breathe it, sleep it, live it, and I still fall through the trap door. I still get, like, oh, why am I getting so twisted up? So it's a function of being human
Mm.
that we kind of make ourselves small. And then we have to just kind of grow ourselves up. And I think it's a daily practice. It's a daily awareness. I don't even know that we get it right.
And do we need even want to get it right? I mean, why be here if we get it right? You know,
Exactly.
yeah, no, it's an ever spiraling process. And oh, the integration of the higher and the human. Always love the image of that. And I'm going to dig in a little more into your process after I ask you this next question. Um, and I want to also talk about get a little more specific about dead people and what it really is, the energy and the data in the collective consciousness. And I want to kind of open that up a little bit. But before we do that, I want to hear the story of how you came to know about these abilities, how you opened the door to even realize that this was a thing, and then even understand it as something that you knew how to do. Tell us that story.
So when I was 3, I had a 4-year-old brother who died, and he had cancer for about 9 months-ish. And at the time, my parents were really, I think, progressive, especially in 1979, to really hold space for the family as a unit in this middle of this terrible family tragedy of this little boy dying. And we had wonderful people coming into our homes. And I don't have conscious memories of this time, of course, which I feel I'm very lucky that I don't, because maybe my human self would latch on to those. But I was surrounded by death, the reality of death, the aftermath of death that we call grief. Um, since before I was really totally verbal and aware. And I feel that that was held in a beautiful space. I mean,
Mm.
Elizabeth Kubler-Ross was in our home and worked with
Oh,
my family.
wow.
Yeah, so I mean, I was fortunate, or my family was fortunate enough to have exposure to people who got it and talked about it.
Weren't
So,
afraid of,
absolutely.
understood the enormity of it, and yet also knew that it was a part of life.
Exactly. And I am this impressionable sponge of a 3-year-old. And so I feel that I'm sort of pickled in this awareness that this is normal, this is real, this is painful, it's messy, and it's beautiful. And it is going to change your life forever. And under the right circumstances, this process of life will serve you well.
Mhm.
My because of that early experience, I always was interested in well, like I knew he was past, but I also knew that he was still with me, and I sort of wanted to know, like, am I making that up? Am I making up this story that I kind of think he's around, and that I kind of think all deceased people are still around? And I opened my world to science and religions and philosophy very young, very, very
Mhm.
young, 6, 7, 8, 9.
Love
I had a
it.
mother who was super supportive of my conversations and questions. Um, so it was fostered. All this stuff was fostered. It was my natural, I think, inclination, and it was beautifully fostered by my young family, my early family, particularly my mother. Um, I didn't think I was like a medium. It wasn't like I see dead people,
Right. 6 years
you
old. You
know.
know what? I'm a medium.
Not at all, not at all. I used to go to different mediums and be like, well, if they're here, why don't they just like levitate this pen out of my hand and then we'll know? And like, this is so dumb. I remember thinking
Or
like
like
it's
come
dumb.
jumping out of like a grave and look at me.
Exactly. Like, walk through the wall, do something really cool, right? So, and I remember one in particular said, you better be careful what you wish for. And I remember being like, oh no, why? Um, and it wasn't, I'm really into science and really into physics and been reading Einstein since I'm 10 years old, like being really super fascinated. Um, And it wasn't until I had a baby, actually, the birth of my
Mhm.
first child, that I was at a funeral and I could feel this woman who had passed that I didn't know well, um, talk to me. I mean, that's a big leap from three
Wow.
to 25-ish, but
Well, no,
um,
no, it's there plenty of learning and absorbing and being present to all the data that's coming at you that your antenna is picking up and that you are
exactly.
ingesting. Oh yeah, yeah. No, this makes complete sense to me.
So, I mean, that's so wonderful to because people are like, "What? What do you mean?" I've not. There's nothing out there that I've personally seen that actually depicts mediumship properly yet.
Hmm.
Nothing. There's not one show, not one thing that's really grasped the concept. And I say this because I know we all have this ability. I know we do, but because it's not fostered and because it's not discussed in this way, that it's a very natural sense for human beings, the antenna, to pick up energy and information and data, that we just don't foster it and we don't pay attention. And in
Hmm.
the days of, being sidetracked with phones and all of that, we're really dulling our senses.
That's a mouthful. Hello.
Yeah. Yep.
Ain't that the truth?
Yep. And I'm just as guilty. I'm definitely just as guilty as, the doom scroller.
Oh.
And I want to share that, communication with the other side, with deceased, is just being able to sort of realize we are bigger than what we appear, and in that bigness there's energy and information that's constantly coming in, and then we can start to kind of harness and say, "Oh, wait a minute, that's not mine. What is that?" And we get curious
Yeah.
about what we're seeing, feeling, hearing. So it's not like this, like, someone walking through the wall, although I that's been reported and seen and experienced by many people too.
Yeah. Did you at any point in any of this work see entities?
Oh, yes, yes.
Yeah.
Several times, and I don't like that. To be completely frank.
It is a
Um,
little jarring.
it's jarring because it's just jarring, not because I believe there's anything negative or bad in the energetic world at all. It's impossible. It's just I do err on the side of logic and groundedness, and I
Mm.
do like to remain like in my body
Yeah.
versus having these other visual cues, visual experiences.
Mm. I hear you.
Yeah.
It's funny in preparation for today. I was telling my husband you and I are going to have this conversation, and guess what movie we watched last night in honor of today? The Sixth Sense. I was like, I can't wait to tell her. Um, yeah, the sense of which, I'm not laughing at the movie at all. Because I loved the movie and I loved the interest, the message of it and the interesting art of it, of the filming of it was really great. But this idea that that's the only communication that we have across the veil is to act somebody that's able to see an entity and have a conversation, which of course, you have just debunked. It's not, and many other mediums, of course, have debunked it. Um, so were I mean, you strike me as someone, and I was like this as well, someone who is really attracted to paranormal activity and cemeteries and all things death and dying and religious and the spiritual journey and how lovely, as you said, that you had a family, particularly your mom, that
Mhm.
uplifted that. I think my parents were afraid of that in
Mhm.
me, and they uplifted more of the performer. And of course,
Mhm.
so that's kind of what took maybe a little more root sooner in my life. Um, but anyway, so this attraction to death and to grief, this is a great seg into your upcoming book called Reassembling Yourself: The Alchemy of Grief. And through your work with clients that ask about relationships on the other side and dealing with their grief. I mean, grief, talk to us about your relationship with grief. I don't want to put words in your mouth.
Yeah.
But yeah, I certainly have my own understanding of what my relationship with grief is and how it motivates me. Please share your relationship with grief, how it informs the work you do, how the work that you do informs your relationship with grief, and how it's coming out in this in your work and in this book.
That's a great question. So grief is to me like coal. You take a piece of coal, and if anyone's never held a piece of coal, coal is just kind of this very hard, shiny rock, and the minute you touch it, it's sooty. It just sort of gets messy everywhere. And the more you touch it, the more it gets all over. And the more it gets all over, the more it gets all over. And it just sort of spreads. So it's in itself, it's just a mess. It's just messy. But under the right conditions of self-exploration, expression, talking, emoting, truly being with it, whatever that means,
Mm.
under the right conditions, like say putting it in a fire, you can make a freight train move. So grief is this great transformer with
Yeah,
the right conditions.
yeah,
So the book is all about how to turn your grief into growth. And nothing levels us into such a corner in our lives like grief. And just to be clear, too, grief isn't just about people grieving people
dying.
who have died. We can grieve our former self. We can grieve a job we've lost. We can grieve life the way it was at one point. I mean, there's grief is pervasive in our every single day.
Grief today in the world over what we're going through on our political landscape, the
So
anxiety and
much
grief we are wallowing in.
wallowing in and not necessarily applying the right or the nurturing
Yes,
conditions for grief.
to really use it to transform, to feel
Yes,
it and use it to transform. Indeed. Well,
exactly.
we're not taught in our society.
We're not, especially in our Western cultures, where we're no longer taught to really feel and use the body and
Oh,
to
yes.
be in the body. We are workhorses, we are distracted, we are busy, whether it's raising kids or trying to climb a corporate ladder or get our name out there or survive. I mean, that the other conditions are for the fortunate. Some of us are just surviving, just
Yeah.
in survival mode. So the grief landscape is the most powerful transformative energy that we can experience. Under zero conditions, it's just messy and sooty. Under great conditions of that require nurture and patience and truth and authenticity, it's not a time to fake it till you make it.
No.
It's time to get real and raw.
So how do you help your clients and the people that you work with in your one, be it one-on-one, be it in your workshops and retreats, how do you help people to get to setting up the right conditions to utilize this powerful emotion and the energy of it to really transform and to, you know, spiral up?
Yep, yes. Well, first of all, it's normalize it, make it
Yeah.
very normal.
Yes.
Yep. And,
Yes.
and then your response and reaction to it, normal. No matter how unhinged you are, no matter how much you've crawled into a ball, no matter how much you've shriveled, maybe no matter how much rage you feel, whatever your expression of it has been, it needs to be normalized.
Mm,
And then in that normalization, instead of that, making someone a monster because of the way they feel, or how come I don't feel better yet? And, with patience and compassion and authentic listening, people feel safe
mm,
enough to then start sort of, it's kind of like tilling the soil all of that normalization is tilling the soil. And until that's all tilled and flattened and made safe, then we can add some seeds and then we can add some nurture and then we can add water and sun and we can build the conditions. So,
Mm,
first, it's normalizing it
yeah,
and being heard.
yeah,
People need to really talk and express it all the time.
yeah.
I think we're
And
cut short on
oh
it.
yeah, to absolutely, because we're a capitalistic society. I mean, we've got to get produce. Don't
Exactly.
don't let. I'm sorry, you've got three tick tock, 3 days to have your grief, and then get on with it.
It's
And
a crime. I really do
it's a crime.
feel that, we all know our brains are still wired like they were 200,000 years ago. But 200,000 years ago, we had a better system to handle grief than we
Yeah,
do now. We have not evolved. In fact, we've devolved
I
in
agree.
the most potentially rich life experiences. We have devolved it into move along, don't feel, don't think, distract yourself. And then that's when all of our vices come up. That's when we shop or eat or drink or whatever,
Self-medicate. Yeah, yeah. Because
self-medicate.
I
We get
don't want to feel
angry.
this.
I don't want to feel it, nor do I want to relate to another person feeling it.
Right.
We
I was
now
just going to
have
say.
that in
Hmm.
society where we're sequestered and we're not communal like we were. And we are very community driven people.
Yeah,
That's
truly.
that's what we need. So there's layers to that. So normalizing it and then building that safe space and then having community around that. Community that
Mm,
really is there for support, but also community that's receiving support as they're giving support. So
yeah.
nobody's feeling taxed
Yeah.
by helping. The
Well,
worst thing.
everyone's learning. The person who's grieving is learning. The person who's holding the space for the grieving person is learning about grief. And everyone is getting the message that we all go through this, and this is as much a part of life as birth,
Exactly.
and that this is, yeah,
And no two griefs are the same. So
yeah,
there's so many layers and there's so much richness in it. And that's why when I say I love grief, I don't love grieving. No, I think that would be absurd if I ever said that. However, because life is suffering, like the Buddha says, what do we do with that? What do
yeah.
we do with that? How do we handle that? How do we really create a space and lead with nurture within
Yeah.
ourselves?
Well, and you're also someone who's unafraid. Well, I shouldn't say unafraid, but yeah, I'm going to say unafraid to step through and be present and hold sacred space around grief and the dying process and loss, and to help others, as you say, normalize it, to help others understand that it's okay and it's expected, and you can take the time to be present to it. And you're someone who's unafraid to do that. Not everyone
At
yet
least to
is
at least hold the
capable.
space to have the conversation.
Yeah,
Yes. Yep.
yeah,
And that,
absolutely.
that's what the next book is about. It's that after my life, like I said, I'm pickled in grief.
I
I've,
like
I've
this
been
pickled.
I've been raised in it. Um, and we all have, but we don't know that. Um, I've really observed our human behavior and our human process of grief. And I created these 9 stages or steps. Unlike Kubler-Ross's The Irony is that I feel like here she was such an impressionable being in my life, young, with no memory of it. And now I'm sort of, in a way, continuing her work in a very different way.
Evolving it.
Evolving it, where there's the process of grief internally. What happens to us during that process. And I feel that if we know that certain parts of that, not to use the obnoxious word journey, but the part of the grief journey is, if we know that, oh, rage is normal, expected, numbness is normal, expected, you know, dropping friends or family members expected. Like once we know that, then I feel like we can meet ourselves a lot more authentically and instead of
Mm.
beating ourselves up and what's wrong with me? Why can't I get my act together? How come nobody
Mm.
understands what I'm going through? We start to kind of peel those layers back and again, normalize it, create a even playing field.
Yeah. So your book comes out when?
Good question.
Oh,
I'm not sure yet.
it's coming.
It's coming.
All right. Well,
2026.
excellent. Well, I will, when it comes out, you'll come back on and you'll plug it, but we're gonna pre-plug it now. Excellent. I love it. Okay. So, I wanted to talk about your process and tuning in to the energy of someone. I recently heard a description of mediumship and tuning into the energy of someone who has passed, and that the energy goes back into more of the collective soul, the collective consciousness of a particular group. But the data of that personality that embodied into this particular person that you're grieving remains in the field,
Yep.
and that it can be somewhat reanimated when there's, again, the antenna, when there's some resonance with that memory or with that aspect. And so like a holograph sort of reanimate that. And so you can feel this presence of this person and tune into it, I would think, as a medium. But even if you're just grieving a parent or a brother, to feel that, go, oh, I know they're here with me right now.
Yeah. Yep. And so th- this is what it's hard to grasp. I think people want more concrete, like
Yes,
it's a
indeed.
ghost.
Right, exactly. That's why I wanted to have this conversation.
Yes.
So we can move past the ghostness of it.
Yeah, we need to get past that. We need, it's very 1800s.
Well, and this is a very, this appeals to your scientific nerdiness. I mean, this is physics.
Exactly.
No, it appeals to me too. I mean, this is why
Exactly.
it's woo-woo is not science, people.
Exactly, exactly. And it's ancient science. It's been
Yes.
around from the beginning of time. It's just science finally caught up with it. So the resonance of energy that I can feel if I'm sitting with a woman whose father passed, and the woman's collective memory of her father are getting reanimated through her experience of him. So I
Yes.
can sit with a woman, say her name is Shirley, and I sit with Shirley, and then Shirley's sister comes for a reading, and Rebecca is her sister. I can bring through the same father, but he's going to come through differently because it's different in their own experience of their dad.
Yes.
So
Totally get that.
through ourselves.
Yes.
Yes, it's through ourselves that that alchemy, that memory, that awareness is brought forth life again. But let me be clear, I'm not reading the physical human in front of me, Shirley or Rebecca's memories. I'm not reading that. I'm able to feel him through their experience of him.
Wow. Totally get this. Totally. Oh,
Which is also why I feel it's very hard to read ourselves because we don't know what's ours and what's not ours. It is
mm,
much easier to feel the energy of a stranger, in my opinion, than it is of our own loved ones. Why? Because what do we do when we feel, when we think we feel our loved one? We instantly question ourselves. I don't know, am I making that up? That was my story.
mm,
So we get in our own way. The head starts getting in the way of this whole process. So it's much easier. That's why I'm teaching people like let's tune into other people's people. You're
yeah.
going to start seeing them and feeling them a lot differently because our own grief will get in the way, will block. Our own brains overthinking will get in the way because we're human and that's what
Yeah.
we do.
Wow. Yeah. This is so good. So great. So Well, you've already misconceptions about mediumship.
Oh,
You've
so
already
many.
debunked a few
Yes.
ghostness.
Yes, it's not
Yeah, I
about
don't.
hauntings. It's not
Right.
about evil. It's not about bad energy. It's we need to really raise the bar because that's very 1800s in my opinion. 1800s.
She's a witch.
She's a witch, exactly. And
Let's
think about it. I
burn
mean,
her.
years ago, someone would sneeze and people actually thought a sneeze meant some sort of entity was trying to come out of a body. Science came along and said, "Oh, wait, hang on a second. There's no evil spirit there. It's a bacteria that got, and your body's trying to expel this bacteria." So, with science helps the process of awareness of what this truly is. So we need to just kind of keep evolving along with the science that's coming out with that consciousness does exist after life.
Yes,
That's getting proven more and more and more every day.
really.
Telepathy is provable. I'm sure it already has been proven. It just hasn't reached mainstream, actually.
Yeah.
I'm certain there are scientists
Oh,
that have
absolutely.
this all handled. Probably back in the 40s, they had it
Yeah.
handled.
And the FBI and NASA and all of them have rooms filled with information on all of this.
Exactly.
Absolutely. But can't scare the people.
Right.
Yeah, I'm looking at the time here, and I want to, as much as I'd love to continue with more common misconceptions, I'm going to move on
Mhm.
and into what I think is something pretty powerful, this collective consciousness, and using mediumship and this intuition in and dealing with the challenging times in which we find ourselves. And what I think about in meditating on some of these questions and what I wanted to talk about with you, a friend of mine, my dear late friend, Leslie Michaels, the author of a book that I have a chapter in, just a glorious human being. And she was also a channeler. And something that came up in one of her channeling sessions was um, that Trump was of Hitler's soul group. And I don't recall it being a particularly enormous political moment in the conversation, but it was probably, if I'm gonna make it up. Maybe it was just about collective consciousness and how there were soul groups. And it this understanding of consciousness, the energy of consciousness moving into a soul group, moving into a larger group. And can, is it possible that someone that's embodied, like 47, to have fractured consciousness, energy that isn't fully all his, that some of it is his consciousness and some of it is part of the consciousness of the soul group that actually isn't his
Mhm.
per se, that
So
there's a
there's,
fracturedness.
yep, the fracturedness would only come through the human because souls are not fractured. Souls are not evil. Souls are not negative. Souls are not bad.
Right.
Souls are pure.
Mm,
So the soul group thing to me is more souls that chose to incarnate into human groups. There's
mm.
human groups that keep playing out, but souls are the oneness.
Yeah,
And so the fracture piece would come from a psyche that has been fractured
for
because of
itself, yes.
fear in and of itself.
Right. So it's not, I mean, it can feel to me a little, one is physical and one is not. One is from across the veil. When I see the what he's created and the reality and the twistedness of what he's been able to create for himself, that it
And
feels a
then
little.
the challenge with that is this is the challenge, and it's been a challenge for me, trust me. is if we are all already one, which I do
Mhm.
believe we are,
I do as well. Yes.
then the most intense of us, most intense meaning maybe well, I'll just leave it at most intense, is also an aspect of ourselves.
Mhm.
And so when we look at anyone, we can look at Jane Goodall, we can look at Trump, we can look at um, Jennifer Aniston, we can look
Mm.
at Sandra, Deborah. What we're seeing is the aspect in ourselves that has been unresolved.
Yeah.
And if we could really grab that, the expediting of collective healing on the physical level. The soul level does not need any healing. It's not broken, it's not whole, it's not fixed. It's just the way when we incarnate and come into these seemingly separate selves, in seeing all the parts, high and low, good and bad, positive and negative, if we realize, ooh, that's an aspect of me that's unresolved,
Resolved.
then we bring our power back. All
Well,
of
this
us.
is the edge of every day, the light and the
Exactly.
shadow.
Exactly. When you were talking about the paradox of life and all of growth happens within the paradox, grief and transformation, it's like the ultimate
Totally.
paradox, So
Completely.
again, when we look outward, we must, for sanity's sake too, we must pull it in because if it was all external, then all of us would be powerless. And I refuse to believe, and maybe this is me as a female that believes very strongly in female energy and divine feminism and all of it. If there is a part outside of us that makes us powerless, I refuse to believe that. I refuse to be rendered powerless. And so I know that my power is going to be found within. And I don't mean power and control. Just I know you understand that. To be clear, it's not a controlling thing. It's a sense of safety and empowerment that is found within each and every one of us, and none of us have it more than someone else, and none of it has it less. That's where the birthplace of the great turning of awareness. That's where heaven on earth, air quotes, can come in and play of like, wait a minute, this is an aspect of myself that's unresolved. Let me go inward because I can do that. I can't do anything about a lot of these things. And I'm not saying not to take physical action either. I think participating in action as well, but first go inward. What is this person representing inside myself unresolved? But we could look at Jane Goodall. We can look at, doesn't have to be anyone that we perceive as positive or negative. It's everybody.
Yeah.
There's
Truly.
great change in that.
Truly, truly, truly. Well, I wanted to dive in so many times while you were talking in agreement, but I was keeping quiet so I'd have a good audiogram. Don't interrupt her. This is the audiogram right now.
Well done. I
Oh, it
would.
was, I know, I was like, stop. Um, no, no, that was fantastic and so true. And it's, I mean, over and over and over again, if there's the polarization of where we are today, it's just, I mean, so in terms of the mediumship and in terms of growing your sense of mediumship as a gateway to continuing to meet challenging times in which we find ourselves, what words of wisdom can you share about that process?
It's funny. I don't know if I'm looking at it through the lens of mediumship. I'm looking at it more on the lens of being.
Mm,
Who am I being? What am I being? What am I presenting? As far as mediumship, the deceased, they've got the good spot. Like they're set. It's our physical selves that need some integrating and
yes.
recognizing that we are whole as we are, and fear. is going to break that illusion that we're whole.
Yeah.
So it's remembering. It's in a remembering that we all need to have. Like, wait a minute, I am not powerless over myself.
Yeah.
That much I'm not powerless. So we start there.
Well, I think
That is
what I'm,
leadership.
oh, totally. But I think what I'm pointing to is really the development of intuition and how to meet these times. I'm using mediumship as a way of, connecting it to the work that you do, but really also the work that you do is helping people to connect to their intuition. So,
Yeah, and again,
and
it's that self-awareness, that like
mm,
really getting that raw truth with ourselves. Where am I a patterned being, which we all live out these patterns, and where am I afraid? Where am I feeling less, not enough?
yeah,
Really looking inward because that's where the change is going to be. And I don't believe we can do that alone. We can look alone, but then we need community. We need the right um, leaders to help the collective look inward. And if a leader, whether it's a spiritual leader, a third grade teacher, like leader of any sort,
mm,
if they're not able to look inward and everything is external, we are going to continue to have chaos
yeah,
forever.
yeah,
It's the inward. So,
yeah,
which is the intuition, which is once you reside in yourself, then you know what feels right. You know what doesn't feel right. You know what you're resonating with and what you're not.
yeah,
And choices become a lot, I wouldn't say
clearer.
easier, but clearer.
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely. Well, and at the end of the day, the anxiety and the grief, it really is, it's like any loss. It's really just a willingness to go within and find the ways of making one feel as safe and as seen as possible. Oh, there's my kitty. I Well, I don't want to share how I want to hear what you have to say in terms of how are you personally dealing with the challenging times.
Depends, sometimes not well.
Mm.
I mean, to be frank.
Yeah.
Um, and then other times I'm reminded that before every transformation, we regress, right?
Wait, yeah.
Before any big
Chaos.
decision we ever make, like right before you buy a house, you're scared to buy a house.
Right. Well,
Right
and shit
before you
falls
get
apart.
married, you're scared to get married. Right before you have a baby, you're scared to have a baby. Right before you die, you might be scared to die. So I have to also remember it's the Debbie versus Deborah. Deborah knows like these times are challenging all of us to go inward and find that trust within self
Yes.
and really get really real on our own values and what feels right to ourselves for ourselves, not even the politics around it, just literally like our day-to-day alignment. From there, we'll be able to make those clear decisions. Debbie gets triggered AF, and um, there's moments where, Maya Angelou is famous for saying, when we know better, we do better. And people always correct me, this isn't what she meant. And I'm like, I understand, but she did say that phrase. And when we know better, we do better. And I say, no, 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 I don't think that's true because I know better not to get triggered and I don't do better.
Yes.
So, there's that. And I think we all need to get really kind of approach it with humor to our triggered state
Oh, well, yes.
because um, we're not able to come together and see that we're all triggered states,
Yeah.
no matter what side of whatever we're looking at we're on. So really, we need to come and say, at the end of the day, at the bottom rung of existence, we're all pretty much the same. And let's
Amen.
start there. Let's
Yeah.
start there. How we get up here, who knows?
Yes.
But it's a battle. That's the battle of Deborah and Debbie right now, where, I have to trust that The dysfunction and chaos, the complete obliteration of community is leading us to feel very separate and alone. And in that alone time, we can either go inward, find our strengths, or we can just stay quiet and small and scared. That's the option.
We're seeing people do both.
And we're
And
going to, which
yeah,
means I call my tribe, I call them the lamplighters because,
yeah,
once if you have a little light inside, meaning a little bit of courage, a little bit of wisdom, a little bit of whatever it is. If you have just a little bit, you're going to light someone else's lamp. And
yeah,
we don't need this big giant spark. It's just a little light. So
yeah.
be a lamplighter wherever you go. Say hello to people, smile, connect, ask
Well,
questions to people.
connect. Well, the
These
curiosity is the thing that I walk in the world with, is really just reconnect whenever you're feeling rageful, reconnect to curiosity. Um, Absolutely.
which you
But
do
I'm,
so beautifully.
oh, thank you. Well, we like you, Sandy's versus Sandra,
Yeah.
some days good, some days not so good.
Yep. Exactly.
But this is a great seg into your offerings now to, you've got so many things on your website. Tribe, you just talked about your community. It's membership in your community called Tribe. And there are lots of things that you will get as being a member of your tribe, of your community, your membership community. You can
Mhm.
work one-on-one with you. You've got something where you can send in a question and have it answered either by email or video,
Video.
which I love. You've got retreats and workshops. All of it is on your website, so beautifully laid out. In fact, one of the things that's coming up for you that I showed my husband, I was like, oh, we got to do this. I want to see her in action in front of an audience. Is your wine gathering brunch. I was like,
Yes.
brunch and watching her? Yes, this will be fun.
Yes. Please,
Uh,
that would be amazing. Yeah, I mean, I with mediumship, like people come to me for mediumship. They
yes,
start there and they say, I've experienced this loss. I'm not sure how I feel about the afterlife, or I believe in it, or I totally don't believe in it. Wherever you are on that spectrum, they
but I
come to
want
me for
some
that.
word. Yeah,
Something, show me something. And hopefully I can. I can never, I won't be so egregious to say I always will, but hopefully I can. And that's how people find me and come to me. They stay with me for that continuing education because years ago I had a center and first an office, and I realized after a reading I always wondered like what happened to them. They don't know what to do with it. They don't, they want to learn more. They want to explore more and grow more. So I built a center and I closed that center in during COVID. And now that center has been moved online,
9.
which is what they originally called themselves the tribe. We're the tribe. And that's stuck since like 2013. And what the tribe is meditation workshops and grief transformation workshops and just community kind of chat about these topics. Like, where do
Mhm.
we learn
Yeah,
about
and
what
resource
happens when we
sharing.
die? Resources, exactly.
Mhm.
What is past life regression? What do you mean there's a science of spirituality? Just all these questions are handled in that community.
That's
Mediumship
beautiful.
development. Let me teach you how to tune in because you're already tuned in. Let me just help you realize how you tune in. So
Love that.
people come to me for mediumships, but people stay for their own personal growth and development and their own learning, which
That's
is
beautiful.
where the retreats come in and all the things.
Yeah, all beautifully laid out on your gorgeous website, deborahhanlon.com. And listeners, all of the links, all of her social media links and website will be in the show notes, of course. So I can't thank you enough for coming on the Edge of Everyday podcast. And I just so love your realness and your embrace of humanity and just the light that you walk in. It's just beautiful, my friend. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And it's right back at you.
I love it. All right. Any last words for our listeners before we sign off? Reassuring words for our listeners before we sign off.
Yeah, trust your deepest inner knower. There's a part of you that is a well of wisdom. Trust that it's there and trust that you can pull from it.
Beautiful. Amen. May it be so.
May it be so.
All right. Well, loyal listeners, I thank you for spending this time with us. Remember, you are always at the edge of the miraculous. Thanks for listening. Until we speak again, take good care.
Pressing down on you, no man has called.